You're visiting the Mom Next Door and our stories of faith. I'm glad you dropped by for a visit. Please stay a while and hear what the Lord has done in the lives of moms just like you and me. Well, hello, friends. I'm so glad you've joined us here today on the Mom Next Door Stories of Faith. I'm your host, Pam Fields, and I'm encouraged already by getting to know my guest, Betty Predmore. Betty, you've been encouraging women and families for a long time through your speaking and writing. And this past summer, we were both contributing authors to the book, Life in the Estrogen-Free Zone. That was a first writing opportunity for me, but I know not for you. So will you tell me a little bit about your family and your writing journey? I don't know how far we're going to jump back, but feel free to set the stage any way you'd like.
Okay, well, thank you. My family, I have a husband and I have 7 children. 4 of those are my biological children from my first marriage. And then the other 3, my husband and I adopted after we got married. We've had them for, oh my goodness, 13 years. We've had them. I can't believe it. Wow. It's hard for me to imagine when I say that. I have been writing actually since I was a little girl. My dad was a writer. He's a published author. One year, I think I was 7 or 8, for Christmas, I got this big wooden desk with an orange typewriter and a globe. And, back then it was the carbon paper because they didn't, have copy machines. And I would just sit there and write story after story after story, just kind of mimicking him, I think. And it wasn't until my dad came to live with me, probably about 2012, I think, that he encouraged me to take all these little devotions I had been writing, and some of them I've been posting in social media or in a newsletter, and compile them into a book. So that's where my first book came about, was because he encouraged me to do it. And so since then, I've written 3 devotionals on my own, and I have worked in a group to create probably 8 or 9 more. It's been fun.
Wow.
And I've gotten to know a lot of writers that way. I would have never known you had I not have participated in this latest book. And so it's just a great way for me to kind of have an outlet for the things that go on in my crazy brain and my crazy heart. And I know you have a big family too. So, when you have that many kids, you have a lot of thoughts running through your mind, and the Lord speaks to you in a lot of different interesting ways. So I always try to
Yeah.
jot those down because I figure if they're helpful to me, then maybe they can help somebody else. So that's the point.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm still struggling with, I have those crazy thoughts and I have like a lot of them. It's finding the time to sit down and write them. And I'm thinking I need to utilize my phone and like a recording device or something, because our brains sometimes get so full that we need a little time to express things and get those thoughts on paper. Let them out of
Exactly.
our brain. Mm-hmm.
I have a running note in my phone because it's always right when you're stopped at a red light or somewhere that you think of something really, oh, that would be cool. So I just have a running little note in my phone where I add these things. And then when I have the time and the clarity of mind to sit down, I'll open that up and say, okay, which one's speaking to me today? And I kind of go that way. Because if I just say, oh, I'll remember that and write about it later, it's going to zip right out the other side of my brain and I will never think of it again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I do. Or I have one little spiral that I will write things down in, and so I revert back to those, or my Bible, because I always get a lot from my sermons in church, from the pastor. He'll say something and I'll think, oh, that would be a great title. And so I'll jot it down, So I have to record it somewhere or else I will not remember it
Yeah.
at all.
Now, how many kids do you have at home? Any anymore? Or are they
I
all
have
on their own?
two at home. My kids range from mid-30s till down to 14. So
Okay.
I have 2 teenagers still left at home. The oldest of my adopted children moved out last year. So that's kind of been interesting to only have the 2. But yes, I'm down to 2.
Yeah, that just the dynamics are always changing as our kids grow up, and there's a lot of adjustments at each stage. So,
Mhm.
I wonder if you can tell me a little bit about how you mentioned adoption. And I know from reading in your one of your books, you fostered first and then adopted. And so I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that journey as you brought children into your home.
Oh, sure. Well, when my husband and I got married, I had two kids still at home, a teenager, and I think my little one was like 9. We listened to a presentation at church one night, and it was a missionary from Russia. And he was talking about this orphanage and all of these babies that needed to be adopted. And he showed pictures of just this overcrowded rooms with all these cribs and talked about how desperate they were, to get these babies homes. Well, I'm a lover of all things child, and so by the time it's over, I'm like on the edge of my seat. My husband knows my heart so well. So he just reached over and patted me on the leg. He goes, "We'll go talk to him when it's over. Just sit
Uh-huh,
down,
uh-huh,
relax."
uh-huh.
And so when it was over, I just couldn't wait to get up there and asked this guy. I was already on a plane to Russia. I was going to get me one of those babies. And well, what he didn't say in the presentation was about all the expense involved, the tens of thousands of dollars that's involved in
Yeah.
this. So I was a little crushed by that because, of course, that wasn't going to happen. But that's the beauty of how well God knows our heart,
Mm.
because he knew that I just had this desire. I couldn't have any more children, but I really wanted one, with my husband, somehow. And at the time, I was running a little daycare center at my home. One day out of the blue, I got a phone call and I actually missed the call. And I had to listen to it on my machine, and was from the local foster agency. They had gotten my name because I had a child daycare in my home. So I think they look there first for foster parents, because then they know your home's already been approved, you already been fingerprinted, background check. I mean, it kind of
Uh-huh.
makes their job easier, right?
Yeah.
Plus you're home with the kids because you're there. So they had left me a message and asked me if I was interested in a fostering. And I was like, wow, okay. And so we talked about it and we called them back. And so we started the process of, doing all the paperwork, and they came in and checked out our house and everything. And then I get a call one day, and it's the lady from the foster agency. And she says, "I have 3 children who need a home." And my first response was, "Oh no, I didn't sign up for 3. I just said one." So she started telling me, she goes, "We have this 6-year-old little boy and this 2.5-year-old little boy and a little 14-month-old little girl. They're siblings, but they have not had the opportunity to live together. And so we're looking for a place where we can bring them all together." Well, that just melted my heart.
Yeah.
And she'd already been in my home. So she's like, "You could put the boys in this room and the girl and she already had it all planned out before she ever called me. And so I said, "Well, I'm going to have to talk, to my family about this." And so we did. And so we said, okay. And the boys came. The boys were in a different area of California. They were a few hours away. So they came on a Monday evening. They got there about 5 o'clock. And, they don't give you any pictures or anything. So we had no idea what to expect. And out bounces these 2 little boys. The little 2-year-old, just this rugged little guy in overalls. And he just walks in like he owns the place. And the little 6-year-old, he's just this tiny little scrawny little quiet little thing. And they just, here they come. And then about 6 weeks later, we got the little girl. But before we got her to keep, they brought her over for some play dates. And so we have photos of the first time they got to all be together, because the 6-year-old knew, and somewhere in his brain, he had a sister. He knew there was a sister. And so when they all got to play together that day, was just so precious. And so, yeah, we fostered them. And then one day the social worker was said to me on one of her home visits, "We're getting ready to, put them up for adoption. There's the mom's rights have been terminated." And I go, "Well, what does that mean?" And she goes, "Well, that means that someone's going to adopt them." My heart just like, "What do you mean? I'll take these kids and I'll run to Mexico." I'm speaking to myself, "You're not taking my kids." And so I go, "Well, what do I have to do to get them?" And so she goes, "Well, you have to fill out the paperwork and go through the rest of the process." So I'm like, okay, I'll talk to my husband when he gets home. And I didn't know if he'd want to do that or not. My husband's a little bit older than me, and I just didn't know if that was what he, wanted to do, because we had never
Right.
really talked about that before we got married. I never thought about fostering or adopting. It was not something that I ever thought. So
Mm-hmm.
when he got home, I said to him, well, the social worker came today. And he goes, really? How'd it go? And I go, well, she said that they're getting ready to terminate the mom's rights. And so the kids are going to be able to be adopted. And he looked at me, he goes, by whom? And I go, well, by whomever chooses to adopt them. And he goes, well, what do we have to do? Ah, yes. I didn't even have to argue or persuade or plead or anything. So
Uh-huh.
it was a pretty relatively easy process since we'd already had them. And we got them the 28th, I believe, of December 2011. They became ours. And I have to literally be reminded that they are not my children. We all of us forget all the time. And so my older kids just embraced them from the moment they walked in our home. And my youngest was so happy to have someone to boss around, because she had been bossed around her entire life. And she just was such a little mother to them. And yeah. And so what's been the most beautiful thing to me is to watch as they've all grown older, how their relationships have developed. Like my youngest, she's 14 now. So to her older sisters, she's now getting to that stage where, they go shopping, they go, on little lunch dates, they talk about boyfriends and, all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
really do with her before. And
Mm-hmm.
so those those are some sweet things. And
Mm-hmm.
my 19-year-old just moved out, and he's now living with his brother. And so he's kind of experiencing life in a, as an adult now. And it's just been really interesting to me to just watch their relationships grow and develop over the course of time. Never would I have dreamed that God had that plan for me or for our family ever. And so it's just a blessing that I can't even put it into words what a blessing it is. And they've all three of them have had some like issues, from
Mm-hmm.
their birth and their
Yeah.
mother and some of the things that took place, but we have conquered them, and they are really doing well. So I'm so grateful.
It's interesting. You said never would have ever guessed that this was going to be our story and our future. You didn't talk to your husband about this before you got married, obviously,
Mhm.
but yet it seems like the Lord had a definite path for your family, and his plans, like with them, didn't come stress or insecurity or fear, but he led with peace and just like a knowledge, like this is what we're supposed to step into. He really led the way in that. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and he just cleared every little path, and it made it so easy. But the funniest part of our story, to me, the most, I think it's most miraculous thing that has happened to us lately, is we all were in my little hometown in California, right? And my oldest son had moved to LA. He works in the recording industry. So him and his wife and their kids were living in LA. So I make a lot of trips to LA, to see my
Mm-hmm.
grandbabies. And then one day I get this, conversation from them that they are moving to Texas. And, my heart just like cracked. They're going to take my grandbabies from me, It was
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
took it
That's a
as a
long
personal
ways.
offensive thing.
Uh-huh.
And so, so they did, they moved. And so for a year and a half or so, I can't tell you how many 18-hour trips I made burning up the highway, because I'm not going to not see my grandchildren, or flying out and just travel, travel. And my little grandson, he was about 2. And one time he literally tried to get in the truck and was screaming and crying when we left. And I just couldn't, my heart was just broken. And also when they moved here, they brought my oldest daughter. Came with. So I was missing her. And then she goes and gets engaged. And I'm like, well,
Oh.
that's it. She's never coming home. My husband says I couldn't live without her any more than I could live without my grandkids. I don't know. It's probably an even toss. So we just decided we would move to Texas. And we had the three still at home. The other two adult ones says, well, we're not moving to Texas. We'll see you when we see you, mom. And so my oldest was a senior. My oldest adopted son was a senior in high school, and he really didn't want to change schools in his senior year. So we let him stay with family for the year, and he would come out for the holidays and everything. That was really hard for me, but I tried to put myself in his shoes. He's really shy.
Right.
I didn't want him to have to start all over. So we brought the two little ones. When my son graduated, he came. My other daughter came. And then I had one holdout, my other son. And about a year ago, my son moved here. So all seven of them are now here in Texas. We all live within 20 minutes of each other. And it's crazy. And since then, my son has had two more babies and my daughter's had a baby. So I've gone from two grandkids to five, and we're all just right here. And I just never could imagine the blessing that is, and also the challenge that it is
Mm.
to all be close like that. So
I understand that completely. We moved from Oregon to Tennessee, and when we did, we had two children, my son-in-law and my son in the military. And so we knew, like, we didn't know exactly where they're going to end up long term, but we brought five children with us to Tennessee. We left two sons in Oregon, and now the military ones are really close to us. And the two in Oregon are still there. We're praying someday we have that all together, but it's hard because with a big family, you can't really expect that you will all be together. Even if you have a small family, I guess you really can't have that expectation. We raise our children to go out and make a strike on the world for the gospel, for right, for morality, and for the good things God's called them to. And so, as much as it pains our mama heart to not be physically close, we also trust the Lord for where he's taking our children.
yep, exactly. And it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, but there comes a moment in our lives with our kids where we're not the boss of them anymore.
Yeah.
And we have to just know that we've equipped them to make the right decisions
Yeah.
and to stand on their own and to stand for
Yeah.
the right things. And so it's, for someone who likes control like me, I like
Yeah.
to be in control. That's kind of hard to do. And I do have one she's telling me she thinks she's probably going to go back to California. And I don't know if she will or not. When she does, I'll be devastated. But I always have to remind myself, I want my kids to live their life and enjoy their
Yeah.
life and have the experiences that they dream about, and not feel like they have to stay in a certain spot where maybe they're not at their happiest just to make me happy, because
Yeah.
really their being happy is what makes me happy. So even if my heart hurts a little at the thought of, right now she's just about a block away, from me, and so maybe she won't be, next year this time, but I want her to live her life and love her life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I wonder if you have any little tidbits of advice from your years of experience about passing your faith onto your children. Did you have some real intentional ways that you were able to implement that?
yeah, I was always a Sunday school teacher
Hmm.
when my older kids were little. I was always their Sunday school teacher. So
Hmm.
bless their hearts, they had to deal with me every day, and then on Sunday too. They didn't even get somebody better than me on Sunday, but so it was easy to just continue those stories, at
Yeah.
home, and really talk about those things, and
Yeah.
make them a part of what we do.
Yeah.
With my adopted kids, I wasn't their Sunday school teacher. So I had to be more intentional about having those conversations with them. And then, of course, we pray together at night, and talk about, even one of their favorite things to do was to tell us about someone at school that they thought needed prayer, someone that maybe was
Mm.
struggling.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so, so that they could learn to not just look at their needs and what they need to pray about, but also to have a bigger scope and look outside that, look around you, who's hurting,
Yeah.
who looks like they're struggling, and have those kind of conversations,
Yeah.
and always, asking them after church, so what'd you learn today? let's talk about what you learned today. What did you talk about in Sunday school? Do you have a question about that? And having those conversations with them. Like with my little grandson, he's 5, he comes over, he runs in there on a shelf, gets his little Bible book with, it's full of little colored pictures. And Grammy, tell me the stories, he says, and I'll talk to him about Jonah. Oh, he's not a good listener, Grammy, is what he would tell me. But I just love that because I can take those things that I already done with my kids and now take those and turn those into great moments with my grandkids. So it's super sweet.
Mm,
But my
mm.
my middle adopted son, I think he was 4. He came out of Sunday school on Easter Sunday. And I said to him, Giovanni, what did you learn in Sunday school today? Oh, mama, they put Jesus on a tree with a hammer and then they threw him in a cave and he came out naked. That's what he story. And so I thought about it for a minute. And I go, okay, he was listening. In his 4-year-old brain,
Yeah,
he was listening. He got some facts. He just didn't get all the facts.
right.
So that I was able to embellish that a little and add some more information to it. But I just chuckled. Oh my goodness, it was so funny. But I went on to explain the story a little more to him. But I I've always enjoyed those little conversations, or just the moments where even my grown son called me not too long ago. Mom, can you pray for so and so because this is going on? The fact that they know they can call me and I will pray
Mm.
for them or for whatever they bring to me, I love that. And so just being consistent with that, and which is hard when you have a lot of kids and you're busy and they've got sports and they've got this and that, and you're trying to incorporate all these things into your life, but just making sure that those things are priority.
I think that by having little children around us and even growing children, adults, young adults, teenagers around us, it gives us a lot of opportunity to sharpen our own faith because, we were talking about earlier about how stories kind of slow us down and allow us to really understand things. We learn a lot through story. Like when we're living life out with our family and with our children, it's not just, the scriptures are not just words on the page. We read it. It's good. We really, in our interactions with our children or grandchildren, we really slow down and are like, wait a minute, what does this mean? Like, how can I explain that better? And do I really understand it myself? So I think that our children, yes, they're a gift from the Lord, but they're also a gift in that they're teaching us just through that curiosity and that quest to know more. I'm so grateful that the Lord gave us our children to deepen our walk with him, if that makes any sense.
It does. It makes complete sense. And how many times, even taking that a minute further, how many times have we just gone to the Lord in desperation because of our children,
Yeah.
and really had to rely on him and really had to just lay it all down because we were just at a place where we didn't know what else to do. So it even deepens that dependency that we have on him, I think, because of the situations of life that come up as a
Yeah.
parent.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder as you were parenting your children, did you have any mentors in your life to really carry you through all these, the life. There's so many things that are new and
I did. When I was, a young mother, my grandmother was my go to. I mean, she had an answer for everything. And when I would run out of patience or lack my, doubt my abilities, she was always there to encourage me. I remember my house was a mess one day and I was trying to clean it up, and I had 2 little ones running around and I think a 5 or 6 year old. And I just said, Granny, I just can't get it all done. I was just feeling one of those days. And she says to me, Betty, the house will be dirty tomorrow. Your kids will be grown before you know it. And so I've always tried to remember that and just get the wisdom that came from her, from all she went through. But then as they got older and with the other ones, I did have a couple of ladies that really set the example for me. And just, I knew they were always praying for me and always had an encouraging word. seems like right when I needed it, even if I didn't know
Yeah.
I needed it. And
Yeah.
so, God gifts us with those people. And I can even go back to say that when I was in junior high, I had my friend's mom who set the example to me of what a Christian home looks like, because I didn't really come from a Christian home. And so, even way back then, that was setting the example for me for when I became a mom myself. And so, those things are really important. And I gleaned so much from that I also try to be that. I try to be that for my daughter, who's a young mother. I try to be that example for her. I try to be that for the women that I counsel with every week. And I just try to give back a little of what I receive from some very special people in my life, because if they can make a difference for me, then maybe I could be that little beacon of hope for someone else. And even in the
Mhm.
things we write, I think we want to do that. We want to encourage people with our words. And like my mom devotional that I wrote, it wasn't written just so that I could tell my stories. It was written because I had some real struggles, being a parent, being a single parent for a while, having kids with issues, having adopted kids, having, just all the stuff. And so I thought, okay, if I can write this down and it can help someone or encourage some other mom who's struggling with something similar, then going through it and learning through it is good. It's like our testimony isn't our testimony until we share it with someone.
Mm.
So that was my purpose, because I know I can't be the only one who felt this way or felt that way. And so I just wanted to be an encouragement to other moms that are struggling, or grandmas even. It's not
Mhm.
always easy being a grandma either. So that was the hope behind that. And I think that's why we write. We want to encourage people with our words.
Mhm. You mentioned counseling women and just spending time with other women and talking about things of the faith. Do you notice any patterns or any struggles that are common? I think sometimes we feel like we're the only one in a situation. We're the only one who struggles with something. But the more and more I talk to women, the more I find out that's not true. There's a
Oh no,
lot of
it's not.
common struggles.
Yes, but when it's happening to you, I mean, we're singular individuals, right? So when it's happening to us, we feel like the whole world is going on and we are not. And we're feeling, whatever it is we're feeling. But I think a lot of us put a very high standard for ourselves,
Mm,
because we see it all around us in social media, where everybody's families look perfect and the parties look perfect and the outfits are perfect, and it's really such a staged thing most of the time.
yeah.
But we see that, and so okay, well, I want my kids to have perfect too, and so we put this high pressure on ourselves, and then we want to be the best mom we could be, so we look for every way we can get involved until we've overloaded our calendars till
Mm,
we're crazy, and trying to be everything for everyone. And we're not going to be the best we can be unless we're taking care of ourselves first, right? So I see that a lot with the women I talk to. They're so stressed out. Their calendars give them hives, literally,
yeah.
and they feel like a failure because they're putting so much on their plate that they can't do any of it to their full potential because there's just too much. And but it's just what I feel like society demands of a good mom these days.
Mm,
What happened to the days where a good mom was just spending time with her kids? It
mm,
doesn't have to be this complex thing. So I just like to encourage women. I mean, it's great to be involved in things. I loved being involved in things with my kids too. But when it gets past a point that it's no longer fun, but you go, oh gosh, I got that today. When you start to
mm,
think and verbalize about it in a negative tone and you're not excited about it, it probably needs to go. And if it's getting in the way of your time with the Lord, it needs to go. So that's the gauge by which I have learned to measure, and I learned it the hard way, because
mm,
being in ministry, you think, okay, yeah, I'm super busy. I have all of this stuff, but it's all God's work. So I'm good because I'm doing God's work. So it must be good, right? But no, not if it's interfering with your time with your kids and your time with God Himself. Then even God's work isn't good if it's getting in the way of those things. So I had to
mm.
learn that lesson kind of the hard way. And I just, it breaks my heart when I see moms just trying to be somebody else when God made you to be you. Be you, be the best you, take care of yourself so you can be the best mom, the best wife. Take some time for yourself because everybody feels guilty taking a time out for themselves when their list is, a mile long and there's things to do. So just that self-care and that not overburdening our schedules and just loving who we are, not trying to be who the lady in the car line next to you is. That's not who God created you to be. So I see that a lot.
When I see somebody who says, if you've got too much on your plate and it's becoming a burden and it's not fun anymore, then it's time to let that go. There is always going to be a few people in the comments that say, what if the thing that says it's not fun anymore and it's just too much and I can't do it? What if that's the children? Have you ever heard comments like that?
Well, I have heard, I have heard moms say, I don't know how to handle my kids. They're too much. They're overwhelming. But then okay, but why are you so overwhelmed? So typically it gets down to because I'm trying to fit them into all my other stuff that I want to do.
Priorities.
Yeah. So a lot of times if things get shifted and priorities get shifted, it really helps that a lot. Now, granted, having 7, I could tell you that some kids are a little bit harder than others,
right?
Just all around. And I know that full well, trust me. But I learned that if that's the case, then my time is better invested looking for ways to make that situation better than hiding from it by trying to do other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I've had a couple that have been just really every button would be pushed. And so I've had to learn how to work in those situations and really invest my time in that to make it a better situation. And I mean, it would have been a lot easier to just ignore that and go do something else that was more pleasant to think about. I just feel like parenting is a gift and it's a responsibility. And we really have to have that in a place of priority in our lives.
Yeah.
And all the other stuff comes after. There's God, there's our spouse, and then there's our kids. And that's God put it in that order for a reason. And so when we don't do that, and I know this from my first marriage, I didn't have it all in the right order and it was chaos. And so I had to learn some of those lessons the hard way, but I'm glad I know them, and they've served me well. And I don't mind trying to encourage another mom to say, prioritize according to the way God says we should prioritize, not what the world tells you, not what you desire to do, because it sounds more fun way to spend your day. It's not fun sometimes being a mom. It's not every day is not fun. And
roll up your sleeves. Sometimes we just gotta get in there,
dig in, cry your way through it, blow your nose, and keep going. And persevere.
Yeah. And maybe that's the difference sometimes is that there are things in our life, I could find another job, or, maybe this ministry is kind of time to get wrapped up, or, there are things we can leave. We can't leave our children. We can't leave that position of being available to minister to their lives. And so maybe that's just kind of like an added, like, we know it's an area we need to invest. And when it does get hard, it's hard. You were saying earlier, this pressure on ourselves that we put and these overloaded lives that we live. I think you do give us really good perspective because there's days that we just feel it more than others, but to step back and look at our priorities, to talk to the Lord, to go to his word and see, what do you have to say, Lord, about my life, my motherhood, my family and responsibilities according to your word. That's where we'll find the answer and find the strength to keep on going.
Yeah, because sometimes we cannot keep on going on our own strength. We're done, So I feel sorry for moms who don't have the Lord, because then what strength are they using?
Yeah.
When they run out, what are they going to? It hurts my heart for them, because on the days when I'm at my worst, God is still at his best, And so I know that. and I don't have to be my best every day. I
Mm,
still receive his best. So
mm,
that's sometimes the only way I make it through the day,
mm.
especially with teenagers.
Yeah. God is good all the time. We can rely on him. And I'm so thankful.
Amen. Amen.
So now you were mentioning before we hit record that you have a devotional that you just put together by yourself, all your own writing. And I believe you said it was called Ponderings of the Not So Super Mom, which I love
Yes.
that title.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. I started kind of writing, oh my goodness. I think it was before I got the adopted kids. I started kind of just doing little devotions as a way just to express the way I was feeling about things. And then when I got them, I found myself really writing them because, it's a very big change for us and things have to get out of us some way. So that's my outlet. And over the course of time, I've taken a daughter and left her at college, and I've had a daughter with a really terrible illness, and just all of the things. I'm no different than any other mom, all the things we go through with our kids. And some of them are so wonderful and some of them are so horrific. And the best way I can deal with those things is to write them out. And, so I put together it's a 3-month devotional if you do one a day, and it's whatever the story is, whatever I'm talking about. And then there's some scriptures and a couple of questions to ponder, just to make us think about how we are as moms and how we're handling situations. So I put that all together and did a devotional book for it. And then in the back, there's a few pages. Our little middle guy that we adopted, Giovanni, he from day one has said some of the craziest things. Some of just like that about Easter, that's what he got out of Easter. But he has said just some of the funniest things have come out of his mouth. Like we were traveling to Texas one time, and my husband goes, "Giovanni, what's the capital of Texas?" He goes, "Oh, the T." He just he's just you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. So I started posting them on Facebook, and everybody was just crack up. And he had like this little following of people that were just dying over what he would say. But the great thing about posting them is then they come back up in your memories,
Yeah.
every year. Or
Uh-huh.
I can go in and search his name and they'll come up. So I literally did like 3 or 4 pages in the back of just some of the crazy things he has said, because I thought I got to put these in print somewhere. So I just added those to the back of it. Oh my gosh, he was so embarrassed. He goes, "Mom, you did not do that to me." Yes, I did, honey. And so, yeah, I feel really good about that book, because even when I go back and read it myself, I'm like, wow, you made it through that. Good for you, girl. And I get encouraged because some of it's hard. And I'm going to be honest, I had one child. There's probably more about her in there than anyone, because she pushed my buttons the most. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
we just There's this little girl, and we just I feel like she does everything she can to get me riled, and it's really not that, it's just adapting to her personality. But I struggled with it so much.
Mm-hmm.
um and so I would write that stuff out so that I could kind of get it out of me. And she was our youngest of our adopted kids, and man, she just would push my buttons. Just our temperaments were not in jive with each other. But I worked through that, and she's just so precious, and I love her so much. I look back now and think, wow, that's crazy. But I wrote a lot about her because I needed to
Mm.
expel those things. But yeah, I would hope that it would be encouraging to moms, or even to grandmas who read to read that. And it's been a good gift. I've had a lot of people give it to like moms that are expecting a baby,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you get a head start on what you need to know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was very good for me to write it. It's probably about 12 years worth of devotions that I've written, and I just, put it all together. And
Yeah.
I am not a super mom. I am so not a super mom. So that's where the title came from. So yeah,
It's
thanks for
beautiful.
bringing that up. But yeah, I am a lot of love went into that book.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, I'm going to be linking in the show notes that book, the Life in the Estrogen Free Zone book that we both contributed to, and all sorts of other little goodies. So I know everybody's going to want to check into the show notes. Now, you have a website and an Instagram. What are those?
Okay, my website is it's my ministry website, so it's www.momsense momsense inc.org. If you go on there and sign up for the newsletter, there's a little free downloadable Bible study that I wrote about four of the women in the Bible because I love the women in the Bible. They're just like my favorite thing.
Yes.
My Instagram is, I think I just have the Betty Predmore. And then on Facebook, I have a Mom Sense page and I have a Mom Sense group that you can join. And, I put out devotionals and little encouragements and I do prayer requests and things like that just to build up a community there. So I would love to have anyone join us that would like to. We would love that.
That's so good. Thank you for the invitation. We would love to meet you over there. And I wonder if you would just close us out today in a word of prayer.
I would love to. I would love to. Heavenly Father, we are just so grateful to you for all that you do, all that you give, all that you are to us. I thank you for this opportunity today just to share this conversation with Pam, to get to know her better, Lord, and to be able to express my heart better. And I hope that there's someone listening who is touched by the words we shared today. I pray over each of us, Lord, as we go through our days, Lord, as we try our best to be the best we can be that a wife, a mother, a business person, whatever roles you have given us in this life, Lord, help us to seek you and to really listen to you, Lord, and be directed by your words, Lord, and not our own thoughts and our own intentions. For when it's when we get out of the way and let you lead us that we experience those abundant blessings, Lord. So I just ask that favor over everyone that's listening today. I ask that favor over Pam and over her family, Lord, and all that they are doing, Lord. I just pray a hedge of protection over them and just blessings in abundance. Lord, help us to lean on you when we're feeling weak. Help us to understand and remember and to know without a doubt that you are our strength and you are our provider. We just ask, Lord, that you just continue to walk alongside us, Lord, carrying us when we're too weak to stand. And we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And ladies, if you are receiving encouragement by this podcast and the testimonies that are shared here, will you please just take a minute and share this episode with a friend and then go on to wherever you're listening to this podcast and leave a review, give it a few stars, all the things. And we really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here with us. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. I hope that you've been encouraged or challenged in your faith today, and that something we discussed prompts you to grow deeper in your walk with the Lord. If it has, make sure you tell a friend so they can grow along with you. And if you or a friend would like to be a guest and share about God's faithfulness in your life, please email me at podcast@tendingfields.net. Because when we tell of God's faithfulness, we never run out of stories.
Whatever is true.